I was just like, are you kidding me? This was like probably the most disappointing course. You can't afford to be making those types of little mistakes. The meal ended up costing $447 USD per person.
We're going to Noma.
Okay, one more time. I debated for a long time on how I would share my opinion on Noma. Finally, I just decided I should just be honest about how I felt about it all. That's what we're doing today. Rewinding back to April 10th, 2022, Friday at 9 a.m. Me, Andrew, and Natalie all got on our computers at the same time, and as soon as it hit 9 a.m., we all frantically tried to get a booking at Noma. If you aren't familiar with Noma, it is one of the most well-known and highly rated restaurants in the world, and we were able to snag a spot for a Tuesday, September 6th at 5 p.m. Big deal, big deal. That was 5 months of anticipation. My expectations were sky high because they were named the best restaurant in the world last year, 2021. They also have 3 Michelin stars. The meal ended up costing $447 USD per person. They offer 3 different types of menus. They've got seafood from January to June, they've got vegetable season during the summer, and game and forest in the winter. Finally, the day rolled around, and we were super excited for this meal. Had been looking forward to this for months. We were greeted at the entrance by 2 employees who were checking us in, and then they led us into this beautiful greenhouse, indoor garden, and they served us this cold pressed tea and also had this beer that they had brewed on site. Most everyone was dressed like very nice, and meanwhile I was there in like baggy jeans that had like a huge rip in the knee, and I was just wearing like dirty sneakers. They led us out to this like concrete pathway and beautiful lush garden fields of these grains and grass and flowers.
Hi, Cat. Where are we going? We're going to Noma.
One of the most jarring and intense things that kind of set the tone of the meal was just that when we opened the door, they had brought out all of the chefs from the kitchen to stand and like say hello and wave. So it was Natalie and I opening the door, and we were just like, oh my gosh, hi, and everyone was like, hello and welcome. There was like 30 people standing there. It was a lot. We were not expecting it. We didn't think we each wanted to do like a full wine pairing, but still wanted to drink some wine. So our server ended up selling us on this like wine and juice combo. The ingredients for the juices, they were all grown in house and carefully thought together to pair with each course. So we were like, okay, you know, we're down to try it. So she brought over a red wine to start. The first course came out. I actually think this was one of my favorite courses in the entire meal. They called it summer salad. It was super fresh, a little bit sweet, a little bit savory. The flavors were super delicate and light. Beautiful presentation. So that was great. Off to a very strong start. The second course was this intricate cauliflower waffle, also very delicate and thin, so beautifully presented. Honestly, I had no complaints about that course. That one was like overall delicious and really nice. The third course, thank you.
Hello.
Hello.
Now we move on to our serving of a padron pepper that comes straight off our barbecue. Inside we fill it with savory sunflower seeds and baby cucumbers, which we toss in a little bit of morita oil. And over to the left side you have a small piece of salted rhubarb. So you pick it up and squeeze the juice right onto the padron, just like a lemon. Please don't eat the rhubarb because it's quite fibrous.
One thing that I really liked about this course was that it was just very interactive. That was great. No complaints about that one. The fourth course was probably one of the most meh looking ones. That was Natalie's favorite, and it tasted really good to me. Cucumber skin dolma, and I could have sworn the server said that there was barley inside. A little bit. He said it's fermented too. All of the juices so far have had a slight like salty taste, which I like. Agreed. It's like it's not too sweet. The fifth course It was some sort of like garlic confit and onion jelly. But then what ended up souring that course was that at the end of summer in Copenhagen in general, like I'm not holding Noma to this particular fact, but it just got in the way of the ambiance of the course. But anyway, there are all these fruit flies that were kind of buzzing around the restaurant. So there was a fruit fly that initially got stuck in my wine glass, and then I was trying to like, you know, get it out, but then it ended up dropping into the onion jelly.
Fly. To be in there.
No, but it's not.
Okay, bro.
And I still had some onion jelly from the other side, and I tried the garlic confit. It tasted nice. I don't know if that I was like really in love with the taste, but it was like interesting, creative. One of the things that I then started trying to be intentional on was talking with the servers a little bit more and asking questions or like having more of a conversation on any information about the meal.
Just listening to the next table, we could take the time to like ask the employees more questions.
I think someone overheard us talking about, wow, these wine glasses are really beautiful, or wow, the baskets that these things are served in are like so delicate. So they started telling us a little bit more about, oh, we got these baskets sourced from this like local Danish basket weaver. My thought at this point was these dishes overall are so far like very tasty, beautifully presented, but it was lacking a little bit of the creativity that in my limited fine dining experiences, a little bit more extravagant. I was trying to understand, I think like part of the allure and reason for all of the praise for something like Noma is one, they grow, I would assume all or like most of their cooking ingredients in-house. A lot of creative preparations of food, not necessarily as much emphasis on like how exactly it's presented, though honestly most of them were very stunning. Part of it is also the sourcing, the partnerships that they have. After this, the sixth course, it was a beet and radish pie. It was beautiful, yes. It wasn't that memorable. I can't really recall the flavors or other ingredients. That one was a little bit more of an afterthought, to be honest. This was also when I think we realized, like, oh shoot, this might be an all-vegetarian menu.
Is the whole menu going to be vegetarian? No, not really.
And we asked one of the servers and they're like, no, we actually do like a full vegetarian menu in the summers. I was like, oh, great, okay.
We would have done differently. I think if I had known, I might have been like, all right, well, we don't have that then.
I am not holding Noma to that. It is a thing that they do, and I just didn't read the description clearly enough when I was booking this. I'm gonna be honest, it definitely biased my opinion a little bit because I was just looking forward to like meat in general. But even with that taken into consideration, taste is still what's most important. The next course, they brought it out and I think they asked us like, what do you think this is? And I was like, I have no idea. Like they said, this is SCOBY steak with smoked pumpkin puree. I think Natalie was a little bit bewildered. I was actually really happy about it because I was like, that's very creative. This is usually the thing that like helps create the kombucha. That's what SCOBY is. It's something that you put at the top of a jar when you're fermenting kombucha. The presentation in this one was absolutely stunning. I could really taste the smoked pumpkin. One of the servers made a joke on like, we're bringing you out this very rustic and hearty steak knife to cut this super delicate, transparent thing. The SCOBY was kind of the texture of chewy, slippery noodle, but it was like a sour noodle. A little bit sweet too. And I thought this one was pretty creative. The next course, they called it marigold tempura. It was like a flour that was deep fried and served with this delicious sauce made with egg yolks. I even made a comment to the server. I was like, this sauce is delicious. So they brought it back to my table after they'd already picked it up and I made that comment. They were like, oh, you can like finish it.
I like it. It's very like light. It's not like soggy with oil.
So I actually really like that course. The ninth course is when I was just like, are you kidding me? So when they were presenting it, they said this is a chicken egg with beet juice. And I was just like, so like an egg, right? Because that's what I eat all day. This is something that I could make myself at home. And granted, you know, they probably raise the chickens on side, grow their own beets. This was a fresh egg cooked with beets and ram sun. This was like probably the most disappointing course. It tasted fine, but at the end of the day, it's just like a chicken cooked in beet juice, served over greens with like a little bit of salt. Whole thing was just about how my expectations were sky high, and then it just didn't really meet my expectations. 10th course, they called us potato wrapped in sea lettuce. I think it was like a seaweed. Inside was like a little bit of potato. This one was tasty, but to be totally frank, the potato was not fully cooked, and it was a little bit too salty. It's the little things, but this type of stuff, you can't afford to be making those types of little mistakes.
Oh my god, I'm just thinking. It's a video.
The 11th course was beautiful and also tasted delicious. It was a grilled young artichoke, really stunning presentation, delicious mouthful. I don't even really think I've eaten artichoke unless it was in a dip much in my life. The 12th course I actually really loved. They served lion's mane mushrooms like a steak. It was roasted with wild roses apparently, and then served with these sauces, and then there's this small side salad. I was worried throughout the meal. I was like, are we gonna leave hungry? But ended up being fine. The 13th course was also a huge disappointment to me. It was a chocolate herb salad, which I've described this course to a couple people since I've been back. Basically, to me, the plate looks like one of those Cat Nat plates that you get from Costco, but then the taste was just so mediocre. At the end of the day, it was melted chocolate served with fresh fruit, dried fruit, some like flower petals, and then like some more greens. And something about, I don't know, maybe like the temperature and consistency of the chocolate just didn't jive well with me. The dried fruit was really overpowering. At the end of the day, it just didn't even taste that good. And I was like, this is something that I feel like a fourth grader would maybe throw together if left unattended in a kitchen by themselves.
Looks like a child. They're like, ooh, and let's add melted chocolate.
That one was just honestly disappointing. The last two courses, who were at the 14th course, it was a dessert of oatmeal and honey. And the best way I could describe what it was kind of like a mochi ice cream or like an ice cream dumpling. It was solid. It was nice. The outer layer, whatever it was, ended up being a little bit too chewy. I would have liked it to be thinner. And then the 15th course actually ended pretty well. Super creative. So they brought out this little box. And then when you open the box, it's like this, it's a handmade honeycomb. They called it marinated honeycomb. They basically just pipetted all these little liquids in there. So I think there was like sesame, white chocolate, and then they brought out this like little pot with this box. And then the server said, pick up this, put the whole thing in your mouth, chew and absorb the liquids for a couple seconds, but don't eat the beeswax. And then when you're done, you can spit the beeswax into this like little trash bowl. I thought that was really creative. The taste was like good, I suppose, but I would have liked a little bit more freshness in the bite. Like my teeth just feel like they're covered in sugar. I'll talk a little bit on the drink. So we had mostly white wines, I think 1 or 2 reds. It was 4 wine pairings and then 4 juice pairings. And then the juices that we had, one was cucumber and tagettes. Another one was elderflower and blackcurrant. That one was like a little bit sour. There was one called Saya Mami Dori Kocha. I have no clue what that is. And then the last one was raspberry chamomile. I have no complaints about the juices. They all like tasted fine. Definitely not worth the money in my opinion. Not that memorable, and I think ultimately the sugar and the juices ended up maybe filling us up a little bit more. The juice and wine pairing ended up being about 200 USD per person. Again, did not think it was worth it at all. One of the things I couldn't figure out, even though you've paid so much for the meal, it's valid to ask like, how much is that, right? And so I was just wondering, I was like, you know, how much is this? And for some reason, like our server was a little bit put off by that. If I were to go back, which not that that's urgent in any way, I probably wouldn't go for that wine and juice pairing. Either go for the full wine pairing, split a bottle of wine, or get like a glass of wine or something. So at the end, they took us on a tour of the kitchens and like some of the grounds, gave us a little bit of background on the restaurant, and handed us a copy of the menu. That was pretty cool. Both of us were feeling a little bit underwhelmed at that point, so we were like, oh, cool, okay. But you know, still cool, because like you don't always get to do that with every restaurant. recap, the biggest thing about this whole experience, the reason why overall I'd say it was a bit underwhelming, is simply because the taste wasn't 100% there. And again, high standards. You would expect every course to be 100%. And of course, my opinion on the taste is highly arbitrary. I'm sure there are people out there that loved every course and thought it was all mind-blowing, and overall they do a great job. 13 out of the 15 courses were really delicious, like very good. 2 of them were just like underwhelming. Some of those 13 were amazing, some were pretty good, but then 2 were just straight up disappointments, in my opinion. The service could be terrible, the price could be outrageous, but if it tasted good enough, you could reach a point where it justifies everything else. Overall, let down a little bit. I'd be curious, would you spend $400+ on a tasting menu like this? 3 Michelin stars means that it's worth traveling to this destination solely for this meal. If you've been to Noma, I would love to hear more about your experience down below, so leave me a comment and tell me more. Thanks for being here. See you in the next one. Bye.